Hi, I'm Brynn Gallagher, and I'm a senior at Agnes Irwin. I started a Walker Home Club at my school because I think that it's very important for young people to be educated on such an important topic, especially one that doesn't get touched on very often in our lives. I hope that with this club, more people will recognize the signs and be more aware of what's happening around them. And as Sue and Sarah told me when this was first brought up to me, the most effective way to stop something is to educate the people that it's affecting. And I thought that that was really important and it really stood out to me. So I really just care about this issue because it can happen to anybody and it can be a very traumatizing thing that happens. And to be able to stop it would just be very important.
Hi, my name's Cory Staples. I am a sophomore at Temple, and I just started the first Walker Home Club at Temple this year. Initially, I was a part of the first Walker Home Club at Ruston that Anna and Lana started, and that's how I first got involved in the club. And then, as my time went on in the club, I started to realize like how much of an overlooked and like overarching issue that this was, and it kind of broke my heart that like not a lot of people knew about it. I mean, to begin with, beforehand, like, I hadn't even known about it, so to think that, I was one of those people who was ignorant and didn't know what was going on, and then after I joined the club, I gained this new knowledge. Just think about, like, all the people out there right now who don't know that this is an overarching issue that, need to, open up their eyes and see that this is an issue. So, I felt as though human trafficking and sexual exploitation is an overarching and yet overlooked issue, unless told and educated about it. And it happens so often in all of our everyday lives that it's most definitely happening in our hometown, whether we like it or not. And it doesn't just happen to women; it happens to men as well, and we have to wake up to that fact. And in this fight against this terrible, terrible thing, is like, we have to wake up to the fact that we have the most power. Like, it's going to end eventually if we continue on the path that we're on right now. So I feel that this is important, and it's important to me because at my first ever meeting for the organization while I was still at Ruston, I was one of, if not the only male person at the meeting, and I was like, wow, like this is clearly a congregation of mostly women, and I felt as though it should be an issue that shouldn't just be one gender versus the other. It should be all of us working together to put an end to this issue. So, being a man, I decided to use my position and uh, get more men on board with this issue and make them realize that it can happen to them, their friends, their family members, anybody, regardless of their gender. And men are usually more reluctant to speak out if they were to be trafficked or sexually exploited, just because of the male stereotype that it isn't manly or it isn't acceptable to talk about a traumatic experience or an emotional experience that you had. And it's a stereotype that I feel has to be addressed and put to rest so that all survivors of trafficking, men or women, can be heard and acknowledged.
So, hi guys, I'm Casey Roberts, and I'm one of the founding members of Walker Home at Temple, founded by Corey, where I am a junior. So, I, as a young woman, especially living in the city, I am constantly worried about my safety. I think every woman has had a talk with one of their parents or older mentors in which they were told to walk with pepper spray or have their keys between their fingers. And I learned to be aware then not just of my surroundings in real life, but on social media as well. So I'm constantly aware of who is following me or might want to reach out to me. I didn't know until I started working with Walker Home that that is something that people will use as a tool um, to traffic. So I wanted to get involved with Walker Home because I don't want other women and further generations to have the same fear as I do. All people, but especially young women, shouldn't have to live in fear of this predatory behavior by those around them. And I want young people to become more aware of this issue as well as signs and signals because we're often the only people that others feel comfortable confiding in. Your best friend isn't going to maybe feel comfortable telling their parents about someone that they've been talking to online because I think, like Corey said, some people can interpret that as really embarrassing. So we're really the first line of defense for those around us, and changing the culture around trafficking really takes everyone working together. So this issue can happen to anyone, and especially even right here in our hometowns, but it's one that we rarely talk about. So that's something that I would definitely love to change.
Hi, my name is Addie Rivera. I'm in 11th grade at Bayer-Rustin High School. I joined Walker Home because of the cause. I find it truly horrendous that so many have gone through the horrible thing that is human trafficking. I may not be able to change the past lives of those who have suffered, but I can and will do my best to support them and prevent more from being trafficked. As for the events, I find it truly amazing to work with people who are working towards the same goal and just making money, raising money for them.
Hi, I am Sarah Dutton. I am one of the co-leaders of the Walker Home Club at Ruston. Um, and this issue is really important to me because I feel like it happens a lot more than people realize. From just growing up as like a young woman, a lot of us were told like carry pepper spray, go to the restrooms in groups, and what we need to realize is this is all preventive measures that can help prevent human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And I feel that the education to teach the community, especially the youth, about ways to prevent this issue and also to educate those on how to help those who have been affected by this terrible issue. Walker Home is just a great club to be involved with because of their mission statement and goals, just because of the fact that it's not all about you want to help each other out. So we want to make sure that we're educating the community and taking the necessary steps so that we can all stay safe in this world.
Okay, my name's Laina Harnish, and I co-founded the first ever Walker Home Club at Ruston High School in 2018, and I now attend the University of Pittsburgh. So I care about sexual exploitation and human trafficking because they are just incredibly unjust and evil situations that I believe no one should ever have to go through. I wanted to get involved with Walker Home because I believe it's a great organization and it does a lot for restoring survivors and spreading awareness, which are two very key steps that are often overlooked but are just as important as catching and imprisoning a pimp. Um, what I want to achieve is widespread awareness and knowledge of warning signs and risk factors of trafficking and exploitation. Since, as everyone else is saying, sexual exploitation and trafficking can happen to anyone that you or I know. So our work really matters on a very tangible level to keep our friends and family safe. My experience with Walker Home events has been amazing. The community is super helpful and receptive, and the work is fulfilling with really tangible results. So I just think it's great to be a part of something bigger than the day to day, and just it's good to know that we are making a difference in people's lives.
My name's Anna, and I'm a student currently at Marist College in New York. I started the original club, as Sue said, at Ruston High School. And my background with human trafficking began when I had a project in my English class, and I did a lot of research. It took probably 6 months of research about human trafficking, and I found that it's much, much more common than people realize, and it impacts our backyard, Westchester. It impacts anyone's backyard, essentially. It's not something that's intangible, and you can't, you need to acknowledge it in reality that it could happen to you, it could happen to your friends. And I think a lot of the culture, as people mentioned, is that women are trained to be afraid in a lot of ways. I mean, today I went to a store and I had to walk down an alleyway to go to a bathroom. And it freaked me out at first. Of course, you look around, you see your surroundings, and it's kind of scary. Put your foot in the door, look behind the door, make sure there's no one back there. Like, it's just too common, and people don't realize how common it is. And so a lot of this became about education. A lot of what we did originally, I went into the project thinking we're doing fundraisers, we're going to help survivors, that's our whole goal. But a lot of it is stopping it from happening, stopping it from continuing, and making sure that everyone is aware of it, because what we found in our club was that, one, we didn't have very many men, and the men we did have weren't aware that women live in this constant fear or constant awareness of their surroundings, and men don't have that same mindset. So we definitely worked on a lot of education, but also starting the Walker Home Club really impacted me as a person. And I think it can impact every single one of the people on this call. It really makes you a great leader. Sue's a great leader herself, so she's a great mentor for the clubs, and you learn to use everyone's talents. So that's the main thing I really learned from Walker Home Club. I learned that I can use other people's talents to help us help a greater cause, which is something everyone wants to do, is to help the cause. So it definitely was great. And as Sue mentioned, our event was very successful. We had 300 people attend an outdoor movie event. We raised a great deal of money, but we also educated them. We used several different resources, such as we made a video prior to the event, which was played, and people were able to see kind of in a more abstract way how it can connect to their lives, which I think was good because we had younger students there. And so, like mentioned before, a lot of times younger students aren't educated on the fact that human trafficking exists. There's like a fine line between what parents see as acceptable. So we kind of towed that line in a way. But we also had many nonprofit booths that were there, so people were able to connect with the organizations that we were raising the money for. So they were another way of educating people. And then finally, we had some handouts and like these teeny tiny cards that people could keep in their wallet, and it had all the signs of human trafficking. So if you're aware of what the signs are, maybe you can help someone. You can call a hotline, and you can make a huge impact on someone's life. So yeah. That's about it.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm a sophomore at the University of Delaware. I met Sue from Walker Home a little over a year ago, and I was immediately inspired by her and the organization. Most specifically, I think people avoid talking to young people, teens, and young adults about the issue because they think it's safer not to expose young people to this information. But this is the most harmful thing to do for potential victims. I also can't count the number of times I've received weird message requests on Instagram from accounts that are only following young girls, promising $1,000 a month for talking to a sugar daddy in order to bait potential victims. These issues are important because we need to educate people on how to spot red flags and stay safe. And we also have to take preventive measures to stop trafficking, as well as help those who have already been victimized, which is why I want to be involved in Walker Home. Starting clubs at colleges and high schools is a perfect way to turn a common issue into a common conversation for people in all parts of all communities, not just trafficking experts. As I create the Walker Home Club at the University of Delaware, my goal is to provide my peers with information that can keep themselves and their friends safe, while also starting a conversation about how issues like rape culture, the objectification of specifically young women, and harmful myths about sexual violence contribute to trafficking and exploitation. As a survivor of sexual assault, I think it's key that organizations like Walker Home normalize these difficult and uncomfortable conversations, but also back them with effective action. Thank you.